Hey guys, welcome back to my au pairing series. And today we are talking about how to have a good interview with a potential host family. In my last video, we spoke about the whole process of applying to be an au pair, the documents you'll need, the steps that you're going to take. And once all of that has been accepted, your profile goes live, and then you can start interviewing with host families. This part in the whole process is the most important because you really want to make sure that you take your time to make the right decision for yourself, for the host family, and for the kids, that everybody has a successful year and can try avoid a rematch. I mean, if you're going to rematch, there's no shame in that game. I did it, but it's just really stressful. So if you can avoid a rematch, that would be great. So before we go into the questions that you should ask in an interview, I have a few pointers. The first one is I would advise you to write a list of things that you are looking for in a host family. The host family already knows what they're looking for, especially if they've had an au pair before. But if you have a physical outline of things that you are comfortable doing that you can refer to after an interview and see if it's going to work between you and a host family. So things that you can include in the list is how many kids do you feel comfortable looking after at a time? If you are, if you are, so some people look after two kids and that's fine. Some people feel comfortable looking after four or five kids at a time, and that's okay. You can also include things about your weekly schedule. So if you're a person who wants weekends off, so you can gallivant with your friends and explore the city, or you don't really mind working weekends because things are cheaper in the week and you're a solo explorer anyway. So these are things that you can include in your list that you can refer to after every interview. Another thing that you need to keep in your mind is the time difference. So no matter where you are in the world, if you're going to be interviewing with Americans, you're going to have a time difference. When I was in South Africa, my interviews were late at night, sometimes at 1 a.m. in the morning, but you still need to remember to come to the interview looking presentable and somewhat energetic. Obviously, you're not bouncing off the walls at 1 a.m., but get your personality across. But remember that there will be a time difference, whether you're in South Africa, in Europe, anyway. All right, now let's actually get into the interview. These are usually about an hour to an hour and a half long. They have the host family, and they'll start off usually telling you about themselves, the kids, the area, just a little tidbit of information, and then they'll ask you to tell you about them. What? They'll ask you to tell you about yourself. They'll ask you to tell them about yourself. And you can talk about your childcare experience, but also bring in some things about you, your family, your friends, things you like to do on the weekend. Give them a glimpse of your personality. After this, they'll ask you if you have any questions. You should always have questions. Always. This is just a general, advice for any interview. Always have questions because you, one, look prepared, and also you need more information about this whole process. And that little tidbit of information that they give you at the beginning is never going to be enough. Now, the questions. I've broken them down into five main categories. They are your role as the au pair, the family, the work schedule, your living arrangements, and money. Money, 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 money. Okay, so your role as the au pair, your first question always in every interview should always be, why are you looking for an au pair? Sometimes they will tell you in that little synopsis, but you have to ask. And this question is very telling. It's always a glimpse into what they're expecting, what they're looking for, and just general, like, what the idea of what an au pair would mean for them and their family. It can give you an idea if there are people that like to travel, if there are people that are focused on cleanliness, if there are people that just need a ride for the kids up and down. So why are you looking for an au pair should always be your first question. And then your second question is, since they're talking to you now, that obviously means that they liked your profile or liked your intro video and they reached out to you. That's why you're having the interview. So you can ask them, what was it about my profile that attracted you? You're not fishing for compliments, but you are fishing for information, because what they give you as an answer kind of tells you what is important to them. So they'll see things in your profile that are similar to what they view as important to them, and that can give you an idea of, again, what they're looking for in an au pair. So sometimes, just an example, sometimes host families will say, I like how you are so close with your family, or I like that you like to be outdoors, or I like that we like how much you enjoy traveling. So that obviously shows that they have certain morals and values that they see in your profile that resonates with them as a family. Okay, the next question is, what role do you see the au pair playing in your family? Is it the role of a big sister or a team member with the parents or an extra set of eyes or just a platonic work relationship? I would save this question to the end of the interview or for your second interview. When you're interviewing with host families, you'll usually have two or even three interviews. So, in your second interview or at the end of your first one, you can ask them, what would make me a good au pair for your host family? And that can give you, again, information on how they expect you to be conducting yourself. Our second category, the family. So here you can ask the host parents what they do for work, if they work from home. This can give you an idea because sometimes when parents work from home, they can quickly help and step in if the kids are getting a little out of hand. Or on the other side, sometimes when parents work from home, kids automatically gravitate towards their parents, which makes it a bit hard for you to work with them in your work hours. So you can ask about if they're working from home, just so you can get yourself prepared. Obviously, you're not going to change that. You're not going to make them go to the office, but you can be prepared for what is to come. Oh, and a big part of the family category is asking about the kids. So the age of the kids, if they go to school, which days do they go to school? How do they get to school? Who makes their lunches when they go to school? Do they eat straight after school? What do the kids like to eat? What do the kids like to do for fun? What do you like for the kids to do after school? Do you have TV time or no TV time? Do you have iPad privileges or no iPad privileges? And some other really serious questions you can ask are, how well do your children adjust to new people? So you kind of get prepared that maybe they might not be so warm to you, but eventually they'll warm up. A very big one is discipline. You need to speak to the host parents. How do they discipline their children? A lot of American households, I'll say, use gentle parenting, which for some other countries and cultures can be really hard to work into. So while you're preparing to move to America, you can do some research on that. But you can ask them, how do they instill discipline in their kids and how would they like you to discipline their children? Oh, I forgot, allergies. Ask about allergies. Host kids can have a lot of allergies, and some of them can be quite severe. So if your host kid is allergic to eggs, maybe you might not even be able to eat something that has eggs near them because it might trigger their allergies. Ask about allergies. As I mentioned before, you will usually have a second interview. The first interview is usually just the parents. The second interview is when they'll bring the kids in. In that interview, you need to talk to those kids like your life depends on it, okay? So you're asking them about their favorite dinosaur, their favorite transformer, what do they like about school, who's their favorite teacher. You need to really engage those kids because if the parents like you and the kids don't like you, you're not going to match, and vice versa. Oh well, you wouldn't have a second interview, vice versa. So the third category is your work schedule. So here you're going to ask questions like, what does a day look like for me? What is a daily routine that your current au pair has or that you'd like me to have? Do I work on weekends? And more importantly, do I work on public holidays? Because you want to know that off bat. There's nothing worse than all your friends are out for the 4th of July and you're sitting at home watching kids. So if you don't mind that, that's okay. But if you didn't ask and now you're here and you are working, then that's really not going to be fun for you. So ask about public holidays, ask about weekends. The fourth category is your living arrangements. So here you can ask about your room. It's completely normal. It's not awkward at all. And it's, you have to kind of know what you're getting into. So you can ask them where it is in the house. It could be in the basement, it could be in the attic, it could be on the same floor as the host kids. So maybe you can't be blaring music and watching TV loud at night because the host kids are sleeping. So ask about that. You can ask about your bathroom. So the au pair guidelines are that you should have your own bedroom, but they never stipulate that you should have your own bathroom. So you could end up sharing with a host kid or a host parent. Actually, I've never heard of anyone sharing with a host parent, but you could be sharing a bathroom with your host kids. So ask about that. You should be asking about the area. What kind of area is it? Is it a bit quiet? Is it easy to walk around? Is there good public transport if they don't have a car for you to get around? Are there other au pairs in the area that you can make friends with? And they should kind of know that because they would have met with the LCC already, so they can give you some information about that. Fun things to do in the area or nice attractions. Then you can ask about how they feel about having guests over, how they feel about having overnight guests over, how they feel about you going to sleep over at other people's houses. Most host families will be fine with that. Just obviously give them notice so they don't think you're lost. And then one thing some people don't ask about is the curfew. Some host families might have a curfew, and if you don't ask, they're not going to tell you. So ask about that. See if you feel comfortable with that. I worked with the host family previously that had a curfew, but it wasn't anything crazy. They just said, could you be home 8 hours before your next shift starts? I started work at 9 a.m., so I was never going to be out until 1 a.m. on a Tuesday anyway. But then the weekends, they really didn't care what I did and where I ventured off. So just ask about the curfew and get yourself prepared for that. That brings us to the next hot topic, which is the car. You need to talk to your host family about the car situation. As most of pairs will call it, the car situation. So the car situation is: does the host family have a separate car for the au pair, or are you all sharing maybe two vehicles? And how does that work on your time off? Do they mind if you take your car, the car, when you're not working? Most host families really don't mind, but if you're sharing a car with the host family, then you now have to work out a roster kind of thing. And then you need to ask them on restrictions for the car. So some host families have a car curfew time. So if you take the car, you can't be out past midnight. So that means if you're going out late at night, then take an Uber, public transport, walk. Or they have restrictions on location. So some people say you can't take the car out of the New York jurisdiction, and that's fine. So then you can just make other travel arrangements when you go out of state. Then you can talk about how filling up the car is going to work when you're using it during your off time. That leans over into money, which is our next category. But yeah, discuss the car and all of the restrictions that may come with using someone else's car. Our fifth category is on money. I'm going to put this all over the video. Do not talk about money in the first interview. Do not bring up the stipend in the first interview. Okay, it's a little bit tacky. And there is a minimum au pair stipend. So you are guaranteed to get that amount. And maybe if you want a little bit more, a little more chinchilla, you can maybe bring that up in your second or your third interview. But disclaimer, the host family is within all the right to say no. I know that's like coming from an au pair. But when we signed up to au pair, we signed up agreeing to that minimum stipend. So if they say no, they can't afford it, then they kind of in the right. Okay. But if you are gonna ask for more because you miss all the shots that you don't take, if you are gonna ask for more, save that for your second or your third interview. Some other things to tie up about money are the car's petrol. So when you're off, you're gonna be paying for your own petrol. And if that's the case, how would they divide that? But that's more of a second, third interview thing. Something you can actually ask in your first interview is spending money for the kids. So you should never be spending any money on the kids. I mean, if you're going to treat them, then that's your business. But if they need food or if they go on an activity or go to a museum or whatever, the parents should be paying for that. So you need to work out how that is going to go down. For example, my current host family has a credit card where we just rake up everything and then they'll pay it and they get the bill. My previous host family, I used to spend the money and then they would reimburse me. That was tough because sometimes I just didn't have the money. So you can speak to them and see how that's going to run. You can also ask in the section about groceries. How do the groceries run down? Because as we know, they're going to cover all your meals, but sometimes you might want something a little bit different. So you can ask them if there's going to be some sort of grocery list that you can add it to, or some host families like to order online. So you can just log in, add your things to the cart, and then they'll just check out and the things get delivered. So those are some things that you can discuss through the money category. And that is a wrap on my tips and tricks on how to interview with the host family. I wish you all the best with all your interviews, and the next video is coming up soon.